On today's podcast, we welcome Danny Garcia, founder of the Playlister Club, a company that provides you with state-of-the-art tools to manage your playlists, connect with thousands of other emerging artists, as well as network with leading playlisters and showcase your curation skills. We discuss the features the platform offers artists, how it distinguishes itself in the marketplace, as well as the greatest challenges artists face in today's market. You don't want to miss it. Insiders, are you ready? Welcome to MUBUTV's Music Business Insider Podcast, where our mission is to educate, empower, and engage artists and music business professionals who are dedicated to having a successful career in the new music industry. Here are your hosts, Ritch, Esra, and Eric Knight.
Welcome back, Insiders, to another episode of the MUBUTV Music Business Insider Podcast, where our mission is to educate, empower, and engage your music career. On today's podcast, we welcome Danny Garcia, founder of the Playlister Club. We discuss the features the platform offers artists, how it distinguishes itself from other competitors, and the biggest challenges he sees that artists face in today's music market. This is one episode you don't want to miss. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Hey Insiders, are you looking to take your music career to the next level? Then you need to know about the Music Business Registry. The Music Business Registry is the leading music industry publisher of the most up-to-date contact information for major and independent record label A&R, music publishers, artist managers, music attorneys, music supervisors, and much, much more. The Music Business Registry is the trusted industry standard and source, serving the music business community for over 28 years with the most accurate and up-to-date contact information available. Their titles include the A&R Registry, the Film and Television Music Monthly, the Music Publisher Registry, and the Music Attorney Registry. All of their publications are available in print, PDF, CSV, or online subscription. Visit them now at musicregistry.com and receive a 10% discount by using coupon code MUBUTV10 at checkout. That's musicregistry.com, coupon code MUBUTV10. When you're ready to put your music to work, musicregistry.com.
Welcome back, Insiders. Today's featured guest is Danny Garcia, who is the CEO and founder of the Playlisters Club. This was a very interesting interview, Eric. You know, we've not had a lot of service people in this particular arena.
Yes.
And what I thought was most interesting about what the Playlister Club offers is the data that they provide. Not only the data, but the fact that the data is actionable.
Right.
That's the interesting part about, you know, the conversation that we had with him, which I thought was really interesting, where you can actually take specific, doable actions to further your career in the steps that you're taking with the platform.
Right. It's not just getting all these analytics thrown at you, like what he was saying, like a data dump, like a chart metric that you just got every metric that you could possibly think of at your disposal, but you don't know what to do with it.
Right.
And I think that's what's great. I mean, I was really excited about this particular interview, as you said, because this is an artist services platform, which we're trying to get more of these on the show because I think it's very important. One of the points that I thought was really great about this was the geo-attractiveness, as he called it, and what's happening in each of the countries, meaning if the song sounds like something that was penetrating another market, for instance, they can go ahead and say, well, look, this song, your song is similar to this market, like maybe in the UK, and maybe you want to start running ads and start doing digital marketing in that area, which will get more response. And I thought that was really super actionable, getting back to the actionable steps that you could be taking with these metrics that you're getting. And I thought that was a very unique selling point to what it is that they're offering.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that, you know, he gets into more about the features of the platform and so on and additional services.
And with that, Insiders, sit back, relax, and enjoy our featured conversation with Danny Garcia.
Danny, welcome.
Thanks.
It's good to have you here.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Appreciate it. Danny, I always like to begin these conversations with the question that we ask all of our guests. When in your life did you know that the music business was going to be your professional career path?
Great question. I think for me, it was kind of very natural. I've been playing guitar since I was in the second grade. I kind of grew up in 1996, right? All the way up to now. I always had GarageBand or any kind of DAW to kind of work with. And so it was a very natural path for me. I was always recording music I never imagined a time before that, right? So it was so natural for me to kind of make music, make beats, make tracks. And throughout that time, I pursued, music production, and I found it very, very easy to make music, but very, very hard to get it heard. And I think that was really like the point where I was like, okay, I see an opportunity, which is that there's got to be a lot of other people like me that have that same problem. How do you get it heard without working with a giant label or without a giant budget? And that's kind of what took me down the path of studying at NYU. So I went to basically music business school there at Clive Davis Institute and launched various different marketing companies throughout that time. And that kind of led me down the path of where we are today and at Song Tools, which is a marketing automation platform. So we took a lot of what I was doing before manually. I linked up with the rest of my team and we kind of automated that process because we saw that with so much music, with like 100,000 tracks being uploaded per day, how do you how can you possibly serve all of those people? An agency doesn't work, right? You have to use technology to cut out whatever manual labor so that you can bring the cost down to make it accessible for artists, but that you can also kind of personalize campaigns or personalize kind of a growth trajectory for an artist. So that's kind of where I guess the path led me down. And so I guess to answer your question, it's like since I was a kid, probably. Yeah.
Hey, Danny, thanks so much for joining us. This is Eric, and we really appreciate your time here today. I wanted to ask you, what is Song Tools and what was the inspiration behind its creation?
Yeah. I mean, kind of pulling on that same string that we were just talking about, Song Tools is a marketing automation platform, fan base builder for artists, for early stage artists. We basically do a lot of different things. It's a toolkit for artists. So we have playlisting. That's kind of first and foremost our main kind of, you could call it bread and butter. We have the largest community of independent playlists on our platform, using that to discover tracks. On top of that, we have landing page automation. We have SEO for artists. We have digital advertising. So you can actually launch an ad to Instagram, for example, in one click to garner new fans and to garner, streams and follows to your profiles online. So the long and short of it is it's an all-in-one marketing toolkit for artists. And the inspiration behind it was I'm an artist myself. Our co-founder is an artist manager. Like we all kind of have that same passion of understanding how do you kind of get music heard in this day and age without huge budgets and without huge teams behind you.
Talk about the data, the actual data that you provide your members at Song Tools. What are the actual elements that you're providing them with in these various features that you're speaking about?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff that we can give artists, and the challenge was, how do you make it actionable, right? Because I think a lot of these data companies give you everything, and you're just like, as an artist, again, it's like, how do I? Yeah, exactly. A little bit, overwhelmed. So I think for us, we focus on things, for example, like from a playlisting perspective, because we show the playlisters an album cover, and we show them, and we track all of the ways that they interact with the track. We can tell an artist, hey, playlisters aren't even clicking on the album cover, let alone listening to the song, let alone adding it to their playlist, right? So you have a branding issue. It's not that the song is bad. So it's actionable data points like that so that they can understand, okay, for my next release, I'll try a different album art style, or I'll work with a different, artist for my release. On the flip side, we do a lot of stuff with geo-attractiveness, we call it, which is understanding what's going viral in each country from a data perspective. So we look at the viral playlists on DSPs, and we track all of the data points for all those playlists every day. And then what we do is compare your song to what's going viral in each country, effectively telling us your song kind of sounds like what's going viral in Spain, let's say, or kind of sounds like what's going viral in the UK. And we can then use that as a data point to infer, okay, like maybe I can run ads in the UK that'll give us a much better, conversion rate or click-through rate than in the artist's native country, because the artist's native country is listening to something that's completely different than this artist. So those are like some of the, some examples of data that we use and that we kind of give you as an artist directly on the platform. So we really focus on making it so that's something that's like useful for the artist and not just a data dump.
Ritch touched on the data part of Song Tools, and I'm curious, what other features does the platform offer? I know that there's things like Songfly, Songfolder, and Songblog, and I'm just curious if you can talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think for us, I'll talk go a little bit step back of like why we kind of did the whole thing in the first place is that we launched in 2020 as Playlister Club, and it was going great. We have a lot of artists, a lot of playlisters. our artists were kind of like, hey, I'm running a playlisting campaign. How, it's going well. What else can I do with you? Do you offer any other services that are automated? Like, because our playlisting is one click. You just click it. You don't have to submit manually. We kind of match you and all that. And so they were like, is there anything else on the market like this? And the answer was almost like no. And so we saw that we could actually help the artist in a more holistic way beyond just playlisting, which is one piece of like the song's life cycle, you could call it. And so the other way that we saw that was helping, that the other opportunity we saw is that artists were spending a lot of time, money, energy trying to run ads, because if you get it right, it's very effective to actually garner fans in the sense of like increase in save rates, increase in follower counts on the actual DSPs, which are kind of the metric under streams that, everyone's chasing after. But most artists aren't digital marketers, so they don't know how to actually do that in a correct way. And even if they do, the setup process takes a while. So we took a year literally to actually develop a whole automation platform that actually allows you to basically click a button and run a full-fledged digital advertising campaign. And so that's what Songfly is. And the other services are essentially, you could call them microservices to Songfly. So, landing pages that you get with your Songfly campaign that optimize the campaign so we can see who's clicking on what service and then serve the ads better to those people. Asset creation. So song folder. What about artists that don't have, access to or the time to actually make good, videos that are high quality and that people might want to click on Spotify or on Instagram? Well, we actually integrated with this huge repository of stock videos called Pexels. And we are offering that to artists so that they can leverage high quality, like 4K videos. Let's say the song is about New York, or I'm going on tour in Barcelona. I can now take a video of that city and run a story ad and overlay text and emojis, etc., to make it dynamic and make a great ad out of it. And you can do that all on the platform at a very low cost. Like the song folder, tool is $9 a year. So it's like very, very accessible for the earliest stages of independent artists.
And I'm just curious because I wanted to tag on that because it seems like you guys have evolved from what Playlister was initially and what Song Tools now has evolved and become. It seems like it's a more bigger breadth of services that you're offering the artists. I'm curious, the controversial subject, and I'm sure it comes up to you all the time about getting on playlists and everything. Can you talk about that? Because there's obviously a lot of companies out there that, they're taking people's money and and I'm just curious if you could talk about that a little bit. What differentiates you guys from all the other players in that space?
It's a great question. And I think for us, the biggest differentiator is that we focus on real curation. And I think that's the big difference. And it took us a really long time to get to that point. We knew that we didn't want to do submissions, like direct one-to-one submissions, because it's a disalignment of incentives, because a curator will get paid basically for just to kind of like listen to the track in a weird way and just reply. They don't have to necessarily do any. So they kind of maximize for yeses or nos, usually nos. We knew we didn't want to be an agency because it's not accessible. And so we had to kind of create more of an ecosystem, a matching ecosystem for artists. And so the way that we differentiate is that a curator, the experience for a curator is not an inbox. It's actually, imagine like Netflix. When you log into Netflix, you actually see all these movies and TV shows that are best matched with you. We do the same thing with new releases for playlisters, and they kind of come in and it's like a feed of music that, hey, we think you might like all these, 100 to 200 songs. From there, they can actually listen through that pool of music and they don't have to interact with any specific song, meaning like they don't even have to add a song throughout, the time on the platform. But we are so confident in our algorithm, in our matching algorithm, that we see them add it anyways because they actually find stuff that they like. And allowing the curator to actually curate is better for everyone, because the artists that are good will make it on the good playlists. The playlists that are good will stay good because you're not placing crappy songs on them. And the engagement rate for the fans that are listening to the playlist get better playlists, increases engagement rates, and that will actually, transfer over to the artist, who then gets better fan, recognition. So that's kind of how we're different, is that we're not a direct submission. We never kind of say to a curator, you have to add this song, check out this artist, etc. We're just kind of like a matching ecosystem that they can come to and find music that they like. And, you do run the risk that, okay, you might get some curators that don't add anything, but we're willing to kind of eat that risk for the ones that do, because you're actually, you're really aiding music discovery and actual curation rather than, I guess changing it or influencing it in a certain way.
It's interesting, since we began this conversation and you talked about your inspiration as a child with music and then the challenge you had. What was most interesting to me and is interesting to me is you've gone on to express that the challenge is getting it out there unless you have, huge budgets or a big team. I agree with you on that. But I will say the Disneys, the Warners, the Sonys, to be quite frank, also have the same problem in that we live in an era where money, size, power, market share, quite truthfully, don't have the same impact that they once did.
Yep.
Attention becomes the most valuable commodity. And I realize the reason for that, Danny, is because we can't buy it anymore.
Exactly.
And my question to you is, you have a fundamental understanding of that, and that seems to be the basis of your life's work, which is to form this company. My question around that is, what is it that you feel, being on the front lines of creating this company, that are the greatest challenges besides that for your members? What do you feel, besides attention, are the greatest things you're coming up against? I mean, every day you're dealing with your clients. So what are you finding are their greatest challenges in the era that we live in today, besides just getting attention for their music?
I think education is one. I think a lot of artists kind of, it's really tricky because there's a lot of like gurus and that kind of thing that, some of them are great and some of them guide you in the wrong direction, or maybe it's not even the wrong they're not even, doing it on purpose, but maybe it's just like the wrong, tactic for that specific artist. And so I think a lot of artists either don't have access to the right education or do, but they're using the wrong kind of like tactics. And so I think education is something that, we want to do more of over like looking ahead. It's not something that's in our core kind of proposition right now, but I think a lot, that's just talking to artists all day. Like that's kind of what I do, and just on calls and people asking me questions. I notice there's a huge opportunity and a huge lack of that education of how do you actually, navigate the waters. And it's changing so quickly as well that it's hard to keep up. So someone that, might have been on top of it a year ago is now in a new place. So I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges that artists are facing, at least the ones that I'm talking to today, aside from just getting heard and attention.
Danny, are there any books or films that have really inspired you, professionally speaking, that you could recommend to our audience?
Man, I love Algebra of Happiness by Scott Galloway. I don't know if you guys know that one. It's a great book. It's not even music related, but, touches upon elements of branding that you can obviously transfer into music. So I love that book, and I'm drawing a blank on other ones, but that's the most recent one that I've read that I love and super interesting. That guy Scott Galloway, he's a branding kind of marketing guy and has excellent podcasts and stuff like that I think not music related at all, but again, you can really draw into this industry. Yeah.
Your career is an interesting one in that you come from music, play music your whole life. As a child, you said, what advice would you have for, and my point being is that, and now you're building a business in the industry for artists. What advice would you have for somebody that wants to go into the business side of the music industry in today's world?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the way I think about it is, how do you provide value to whatever you're targeting with that business? Whether in our case, it's with artists and independent labels. How do we actually provide value and make sure the interests are aligned? And I think if you stick that at the core of what you do, of everything you do, whether it's, launching a new product, working with a new client, et cetera, if you're bringing value to the table, that makes you valuable. And that kind of allows you to everybody wins in that scenario, I would say. So making sure that you because it's easy today to not to do a lot and to say a lot without actually providing value, whether it's like working at an agency that does like TikTok marketing or et cetera. Like a lot of people just kind of like folder certain clients in, and it's like, how do you ensure that the experience for every client, whether they're not, a priority client, is a good one? So I think that's kind of, something that I've consistently been working on throughout my time, and I think is something that I think is interesting.
So, Danny, I'm going to flip the question around that Ritch just asked. What advice can you offer our listeners who are wanting to pursue a career as a recording artist?
I think thinking about branding, I think is super important in this day and age, and making sure that that transfers into all the platforms. I think a lot of artists are great at Spotify, let's say, and Instagram, but there's so many platforms, and you have to make sure your brand is cohesive on all of them, and make sure that you live on all of them and you're taking advantage of all the tools, whether it's Pandora, Amplify program, or Amazon Music for artists, making sure that you're taking advantage of all those back-end tools that they allow you to push your brand on, so that if a fan finds you on an Instagram story and they go and look you up on Amazon, your brand is going to be there and you're going to be recognizable. So I think making sure that branding is key and cohesive along all the services. I think understanding what is working and what is not. I think a lot of artists kind of believe that everything they output is amazing, but that's not the case with anyone. So understanding what your strength is, whether it's your lyrics, whether it's your performance, whether it's your brand, whether it's, the way that you talk on stage. So really honing in on that and what your superpower is, and then just leaning into that and making sure that that's what people see about you and what you're pushing out. And I think those are, I guess, pretty broad things I would say, but it should work, to kind of create the building blocks of, hopefully pushing forward as an artist.
Danny, where can people best connect with you and Song Tools?
On our website, songtools.io. My email is Danny, DANNY, @songtools.io. Super easy to reach. We want to talk to everyone that is interested, and any artist that has questions, me or one of my team members will jump on a call. Our thing is we want to be a tech platform, but with, that you can actually interface with people. And so, yeah.
Wonderful. Danny, thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Yeah,
we really appreciate it very
awesome.
much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Wow. Really interesting interview and great insights. I mean, I love the fact that, he talked about the data services they provide. I loved when he got into the whole actionable element of the data, of the specific things that he provides, that you can actually do things on. You can see what it is. And then, to the point that you were making earlier, how the specific data things that the
geo-attractiveness.
Yeah, the geo-attractiveness is a thing where you can pinpoint where your time, effort, and energy and marketing elements need to go.
Yeah, and I love the other services like Songfly and a Slong blog and some of the other services that they offer, because a lot of it is just automating a lot of the process for them. And he talked about also one of the big things that a lot of artists have a problem with. They're not digital marketers. They don't know how to run Facebook ads, or at least run them effectively. And I think that what they offer makes it an easy kind of one-step thing. And you're already doing that, with submitting with their playlist. They have a one-step thing where they do it and you set it and forget it type of situation. So I think that is really exciting for artists that are just getting started in this world, because there is so many elements. And, nowadays digital marketing is where it's at in terms of building an audience. And I also thought what was really great was his story about what was the purpose of why he was doing Playlister Club to begin with, which was, obviously he was an artist and I believe his partner is a manager. And they were trying to use these technologies. And I think one of the great things that they've done with it is that they're making it affordable for everybody. It was taking the technology and bringing the cost down for everybody.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that, Danny is a perfect illustration of, necessity being the mother of invention.
Hey, insiders, thanks so much for tuning into this episode. We really appreciate it. To get show notes, links, and everything that was mentioned during this interview, head on over to our official website at mubutv.com/podcast/show notes. If you're enjoying the content and what we're doing here on the show, please subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts from. And don't forget to rate and review our show at iTunes. 5-star reviews are always welcome and help to ensure that our podcast stands out on the top-rated and new and noteworthy charts on iTunes and our space. You can also find us at social media at Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter X, all ending with the handle MUBUTV, which is spelled MUBUTV. Don't forget to catch our flagship show, the MUBUTV Music Business Insider video series, airing every week on YouTube at youtube.com/MUBUTV. This show was produced and created by Ritch, Esra, and Eric Knight. Theme music by Disciples of Babylon, and be sure to tune in next week for another episode of the MUBUTV Music Business Insider Podcast.